Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be my top 10 stocks as we head into Monday, November 7th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown. So if you are somebody that uses charts within your trading, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about charts and how they can be used as a tool to help make good decisions as a trader, this will be a video for you. First off, some clarifications. Over here, this price you see will be moving around, and then the candlesticks right there will also be moving around. That is because the market's still open for a small amount of time. But I like to do these videos when the market is still open because sometimes we can capture some really interesting late day price movement. And then second, I'll be using the 30-minute time frame, meaning each one of these candlesticks here, as they're called, represents 30 minutes worth of time. So stock number one here, NIO. Very, very impressive move today. Finally got that trend line break, which will mean a bit more to those of you that have watched past videos. But you can see right there, was a trend line, was a very problem point, but big breakthrough there today. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these lines out as they've served their purpose for now and focus on more of the nearer term levels with the next key main area of resistance now. Whoops, let's change that. There we go. Next key level to watch very closely heading into next week, right up there at $12. You got to like this little short-term pattern right here. Have yourself a nice little bull pennant pattern. So if the bull pennant does indeed get the break to the upside, then that's where the next big question mark arises. Can the price not only get up to $12, but if it does, can it push through it? And if it can get up through that level, then that's really going to start to turn the tide of the chart and make it look that much more powerful. So $12 is definitely a very important level moving into next week. As far as levels of support are concerned, if there are any sort of pullbacks, main area to keep an eye on is going to be that pink line there, the very famous 200 period moving average, which you can see right here during the opening 30 minutes, already did once behave as support. So if there's any sort of bigger pullbacks, then 1060 will be the main area in that regard. But yeah, no doubt about it. Very, very nice way to close out the week. Nice bullish pattern. So let's see if the price can indeed make a move up towards that $12 mark. Next one, MULN, and this thing continues to just get beat down. Although something that makes this a little interesting, so I'm going to delete these lines out and I'll zoom back in, but I just wanted to, illustrate the overall idea of things. A whole lot of downwards pressure, and I realize I probably state the obvious when I say that, but just keep that in mind as I zoom back in here. And what was interesting about today is that the price has actually started to go sideways, as you can see illustrated by that green line there, but in all actuality, has actually got a slight little uptrend to it. Now, let me be very clear. Just because there's a slight little uptrend, let me change that to green. And just because there's some sideways action does not mean for sure, guaranteed, this is some sort of bottom. My point here is it's at least valid. It's at least rational to think that maybe this thing is finally starting to bottom out. Case in point, if the price was still just dropping down and I'm sitting here saying, hey, it's looking like this could be the bottom, you'd be totally justified to say, what are you talking about? Based on what the price is literally still going down. But that's not the case here, right? It is going sideways. So on that note, it at least makes a valid sense to throw out the question, hey, is this some sort of bottom forming? And we'll see what happens with it. And that is, interesting for the simple reason, as I started off, this thing has been beat down so much. So just any sort of even partially good news could really create a good tradable opportunity to, bounce to the upside. So if you like to play penny stocks and relatively popular penny stocks that have been beaten down and are now potentially showing signs of at least a bounce arising, definitely keep an eye on this one. Next one, TSLA, Tesla. Rough day on this one, not necessarily because it was red on the day, but because the price came down to that green line, which I talked about yesterday. And not only did the price break below it, but you can see absolutely just smash down below it, which brings about the first update. And this is just based on a foundational rule in charting, which states when supports are broken and closed below, they tend to act as resistance. So moving forward, right up there at 214.50 will be the key level of resistance if there is any sort of attempted bounce back in the upwards direction. So keep an eye on that from the overall standpoint. And then as far as supports, nothing fancy, nothing complicated at all. Just a question of where did the bleeding stop today, and that was down there at the 203 mark. So 203 will be that main level to watch. And in the near term here, some interesting dynamics going on here, but it's really just a question of does that candle right there lead to a near term rollback over? That seems possible, but again, the market's still got a little bit of time to shake off that candle. So if there is a bigger move to the upside, then that's where we go back to that red line up there being the main level. But overall, a lot of downwards pressure, and for you bears out there, to point this out, sure, there's that little upwards channel right now, but in all actuality, you do have a bear flag pattern that's forming. So for you, like I said, people that like to play things from the bearish side of things, Tesla is offering up an interesting example from that angle. Next one, SNTG. I like this because there's a very well-defined breakout area. So as I draw this line right here, I'm not trying to impress you. I'm not trying to imply this is some sort of special discovery or special skill. I assure you a lot of people have drawn that line. And I say that because when a lot of people are watching the same level and wondering the same thing, call it a self-fulfilling prophecy, call it whatever you want. It can definitely produce some very dynamic movements, and that's what we have right here with that level. Meaning, while there are no guarantees, is it plausible? Is it valid to think that if the price were to come up there and then get the break, that break in and of itself could create good, solid upwards buying pressure? That is certainly a valid conclusion that could very well play out. Again, no guarantees, but nobody could accuse you of, thinking that's random, that a break of 5 could create additional buying pressure. So keep a close eye on that. As far as areas of support are concerned, you can see that now 3 separate times the price has come down to right around this 415 mark. So very clearly right now, there does seem to be quite a bit of buyers at that level. In the event that level fails, then the next key level of support at that point will then just be this gap close location down around 325. But all in all, nice movement, nice little consolidation, and you have, like I said, very well-defined breakout point. So certainly keep an eye on that $5 mark. Next one, AMC, and the bleeding just continues. Lower lows, lower highs, and updates need to be done. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. First key update just comes off that rule. As I've stated, when levels of support are broken and closed below, they tend to act as resistance. So yes, to give some credit where credit's due, there is a slight little upwards channel here that has formed. So the next key battleground to watch if this upwards channel continues is going to be that resistance right there. But like Tesla, if I draw this downwards move right here, we have ourselves another bear flag pattern. Now, just because there's a bullish pattern doesn't mean that the price is for sure going to go up. Same is true for bearish patterns. Just because something's bearish does not mean that for sure guaranteed the price is going to drop. All I'm saying is I understand, and you're not wrong to be excited that there is a little bit of an upwards channel here. I'm just saying be a little skeptical of it because it is occurring within an overall downtrend, and it is forming a bear flag pattern. But yeah, maybe this little upwards channel is going to be the start of something bigger. But the first big test will be, can the price get up above that red line right there? So keep a close eye on that. Real quickly, want to take a break and personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online training that I'm offering next week. So if you've been enjoying what you've seen and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used, then I want you to get signed up for this free training. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down in the description box. If you're watching at my site, there's an area right there on the webpage that you can click to get signed up. So like I said, if you've been enjoying what you've seen, then I want you to get signed up for the free live training. Next one, CVNA, and just an absolute beatdown today. Granted, it's been beat down already, but I mean, essentially straight down at this point. When you consider this trend line here, I mean, look how straight down that trend line is. Pretty crazy when you stop and think about it. So the thing has been beat down in a hurry. But I don't want to say this one's as popular as like a Tesla or Amazon. But CVNA, relatively popular, and you can see the volume was just huge today. And you do have a little bit of upwards movement here, which brings about a valid question. Is this maybe the start of a bigger dead cat bounce? I'm not going to even say anything close to a reversal, but a dead cat bounce, and from a trading standpoint, there can be opportunity in that. And, that's what a watch list is all about. Finding unique, finding interesting situations, not randomly rushing out and buying anything, but watching it and seeing how the price behaves. And if it fits in a way that fits your personal strategy, then you can make a move on at that point. So in my mind, the unique situation here is just such the absolute beatdown. You do have the price heading back upwards. So maybe this is the start of something bigger. So if you like to play these sorts of situations where you get the beatdown on a popular stock and you're starting to see some signs of life, then I would definitely keep this on your watch list for next week. Next one, PLTR. First update comes about, as you've heard me say, when levels of support are broken and closed below, they tend to act as resistance. So I've talked about this level in the past at $8, and you can see this rule played out quite perfectly. Price broke below it right there. Try to get up above it right there, rejected. Tried again right there, rejected. So while that doesn't mean that $8, can never ever be broken again. I'm just saying it makes sense why the price is struggling at $8 and why going into next week, $8 will be that first key level of resistance to keep an eye on if this bounce is going to, gain and, maintain any sort of actual strength. As far as levels of support are concerned, very straightforward here. Just that question of where did the bleeding finally stop today? And that was down there at 765. So it's pretty straightforward. Nice bounce, but still be a little skeptical. But if the price can get up above $8 and stay above $8, that would certainly be a step in the right direction and make the chart look that much more convincing that, okay, maybe the bulls are starting to take back over. Next one here, DKNG, absolute bloodshed. And this is along the same idea of popular stock getting beat down in a hurry. And we have the nice sideways movement. So I'm not going to sit here and repeat myself. You understand that just because something's going sideways doesn't mean that for sure it's the bottom. But is it plausible to start to think that maybe, just maybe, this could be a bottom? Absolutely. So on that note, that's why this level of support right here at 11.15 is important, because as long as the price stays above 11.15, then you can at least make an argument that maybe, just maybe, this is some sort of bottom forming. But if the price comes down here and blasts down through it, well, at that point, it really no longer makes sense to say this could be the bottom because the price just simply putting in new lows. But 11.15, very important from that area. And then if there is going to be any sort of turnaround, it seems as though the key breakout point to get this thing, with some further upside momentum, going to be right there at 1160. So we got a nice little sideways channel here forming. The question just becomes, if this is some sort of bottom, then you could be looking at some good upside. But if it's not, well, then from a risk reward standpoint, assuming you can honor a stop loss, you're looking at a nice solid situation. Next one, AAPL Apple, and have a very well-defined level. So yes, the price is bouncing right now, but you got to think a lot of people are watching this trend line right there, which puts the breakout point right up around the 138.75 mark. So in my mind, like a lot of these stocks, yes, you got to give credit where credit's due. And, you're not illogical to be getting excited about these upwards channels. But is there any sort of true strength behind it? In my opinion, there still just needs to be more proof that it is actually strong. And again, in this situation, that quote-unquote sign of proof would be breaking above and staying above the red resistance line right there, which again puts the breakout point right around the 138.75 mark. As far as supports, you've heard me say it, but very straightforward, which always makes it nice. Just ask yourself, where did the bleeding finally stop today? And that was down there at 134.35, so that'll be that main area. But yeah, you do have potentially some sort of wedge pattern forming here, and we'll see if the price can indeed get the break to the upside. But yeah, nice afternoon bounce. Can this lead into more momentum on Monday? Let's see what happens. Next one, TQQQ, which is an ETF that allows you to take part in the NASDAQ market as a whole. So if you think that the NASDAQ market is going to rise, then this ETF will go up. It just allows you to get entrance at a lower price point. And it's the most popular ETF stock out there. It's got the most volume pretty much every single day, including today. And overall, still just chopping around. We did get a bit more data, so I want to make a couple adjustments. But broadly speaking, what I talked about before, just seems to be a sideways channel right now that's starting to form. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and make a couple adjustments. So this adjustment is good. Whenever levels of resistance have to be moved up, that's always a good thing. So top of the channel now seems to be more so right around $18.20. And then as far as the bottom of the channel, this is where it's bad because you don't want support levels to be moved down. But the bottom part of the channel seems to be more so around the 1685 mark. So these are going to be the main levels that I think most people are watching. But it could very well, at least in my opinion, I could see the price just kind of chopping around for the next couple of days next week as it tries to determine what it ultimately wants to do. But in my mind, those would be the two main levels that even from a broad market standpoint will be very helpful in telling us, kind of what does the overall market want to do. If it can get to the upside, then great. If it can get to the downside, then that's implying that the bears are taking over. And I would assume at that point, those headlines are probably getting quite bearish again. But like I said, I'm thinking this thing probably wants to chop around a little bit in the sideways channel. But, in these crazy times, who knows, maybe this thing is just going to make an explosion one direction or another. But these are going to be the two main levels that I think most traders are watching. So that wraps up the top 10. Again, if you like what you saw here, then I want you to get signed up for the free training next week. It'll be Thursday, November 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope to see you there. As far as the top 10 videos are concerned, if you enjoy this format, please do two things for me. Hit that like button, leave a comment below. Tell me what you traded today. Tell me what you're watching next week. Really appreciate it. And, those little things help out the channel. And I thank you in advance for it. So again, get signed up for that training. Hit the like button, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a great weekend.